powered by Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which is dropping this morning at 6 a.m. They are doing a look at the NFC East with Greg Cosell. Check that out on the Inside the Birds platform, wherever you listen to your podcast. Jeff Mosher, Adam Caplan, they do the Inside the Birds podcast, and they are with me Adam is with me right now, as we like to say. He is the third member of the NWO right here on a Football at 4. There he is, Adam Caplan. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you, Michael. Good to see you.
There he is. So I was just telling the people, you guys on Inside the Birds are doing the NFC East with Greg Cosell. They've been very interesting and very educational listening. Of course, Greg does a great job, but you're finding a little bit more. Dallas, you did Monday. Washington dropped today. Giants on Monday coming up, and then you guys will be doing a full Eagles on Thursday. So, this NFC East, very interesting. But I guess one question is, when you look at the Eagles roster against the rest of this division, would you say this is the worst 53-man roster of the 4 teams?
Right, they're 90 now, but yeah, potentially 53, yes. In fact, that's a big, it's funny you bring this up. This is a big reason why we're doing it. We want to educate the fans, and as well as ourselves. We all want to understand, what does the Eagles roster look versus the other 3 teams in the division? We feel, when we look at the rest of the league, and we can certainly get into this, that they have a roster that doesn't compare favorably to other teams. But within that, who are they? What can they be? Could this team shock us and have a winning record at 9-8, something like that? Remember, we go to the 17-game season this year for the first time ever. We just want to kind of figure out the reason why we're doing this series. And as you said, we dropped 2 teams, and the last 2 will be next week, including the Eagles, which I'm sure will be a long show. But we just want to get a general feel of what this team could be. And yeah, when you stack it against the Eagles roster against the other 3 teams, what they look like now is a 90-man roster. And once they get down to the 53-man roster on August 31st, yeah, they're clearly the 4th team. I don't think there's any question about it, because it's the question marks on both sides of the football. And you and I have talked about this. I know you and Jeff Mosher have talked about this on your segments on Football at 4 here. When is the last time we had so many questions with a football team? Probably 2016 under Doug Peterson, ironically his first year.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm thinking back to that first year when Chip left and then it went over to Doug. You were answering a lot of questions. You had similar questions after they went 7-9 into the next year, and that turned out to be pretty good. And a lot of that was based on the fact that their offensive line was very strong that year. They made some interesting, sound free agent moves. And I guess when you look at this roster in this division, what's the ceiling for you, Adam?
9-8. I think this is what has to happen. Let's say Hurts. We just don't know enough about him. The Eagles don't as well. He started 4 games. From what I understand, he's had a pretty good offseason, but I always break them into segments. The offseason is AA baseball. Preseason and training camp is AAA baseball. The major leagues is the regular season. That's when you know if you hit the fastball, so to speak, with Jalen Hurts. Can he handle all that's going to come to him now in his first full season as a starting quarterback? So, we don't know that yet. When you look at sort of the rest of the situation with the Eagles, the upside is the receiver group. They're very talented. I mean, you've got 2 first-round picks, Jalen Reagor and Devontae Smith, and Travis Fulgham, who's very gifted. I know that he faded after that incredible 4-game production, which led the National Football League in terms of receiving yards. Greg Ward is a decent slot receiver, very dependable. That's pretty much it for the wide receiver position. You've got Ertz is still on the team for now. Goddard looks like he's got a chance to be a really good player. Sanders is really good. There's talent here. They're what I love about the running back group, it's the deepest they've had in years since really 2017. So the upside, there's a lot of upside with this offense, but there's a lot of mystery because they're playing together for the first time. You and I have talked about this offensive line. I don't know how many times now. The offensive line as a group, the 4 of them make up a top 5 group. The other one, the left tackle, we just don't know because neither of them started for a full season. And yes, there's a competition in training camp. So to summarize the offense, Mike, there's a ton of upside. I'm kind of looking forward to going to the training camp to see how good this offense could be under this new coaching staff. Defensively, They're so bad at corner on the outside, opposite Slay. Linebacker group might be better than last year, but they're going to be a 2-linebacker team anyway. They're going to be a 4-2-5 team. The D-line is the strength of the defense, I would say. They have some depth, but safeties, we didn't mention safety. The safety is a problem. You got McLeod come back yet from another serious injury. We don't know yet about Kayvon Wallace. Yeah, he barely played last season. I know they like him, but he was a 4th-round pick, so we'll have to see. Anthony Harris knows the defense. Okay, so, I've spoken rather optimistically, but that's what you asked. What would be the upside?
Yeah.
The reality of it all is it's a 6 or 7 win team because there's just way too many questions, but with some significant upside on offense.
Yeah, I like that significant upside, and you mentioned Fulgham. I'm kind of interested in if I don't know that you've talked to people in there. What do they hope for Fulgham? Like you mentioned, that 4-game span, that was unbelievable. Like you were like they found something in this lousy season, and then he just went away. He vanished from the offense. To which one coach said, "Look, you don't put up that over a 4-game span, and then you just stink." So, what do they hope he is?
Well, a couple things here. They didn't draft a big receiver. That was something that I thought they might do. And Smith obviously is 6 feet, but he's 170-ish. So they didn't draft a big physical receiver. So they're expecting him to be a factor. And they didn't sign a veteran. The Eagles are only one of 2 NFL teams to not have a vested veteran on the roster, which is, again, a surprise. We're only on July 1st. I always have to tell myself that because teams will make fun of me when I go, man, you guys are weak at this position. They'll always say, hey, this isn't September 1st. Relax. We got 2 months. Now, in the Eagles' case, they've got 2 months to the season start. So I wouldn't rule out a potential of signing a veteran receiver for right now. They're going with what they have. Fulgham is very gifted. He's got great size. He's 6'2.5". He's a decent route runner, good hands, not great hands, but pretty good hands. He's very gifted. It's really remarkable, but let's not forget, there's a reason why, Mike. The Lions cut him twice. The Packers cut him once.
Right.
And from what I'm told, the Lions coaching staff did not want him on the roster. That's why he was cut a second time. So that there's some maturity issues here. He's got to grow up a little bit. You can't just show up and practice well and play well 75% of the time. It's kind of my read on this information that Moshe and I have had, 8 months or something.
Yeah.
But I could tell you, I was at his first training camp practice last summer. I was blown away. I didn't know anything about the guy. I didn't know his background. I knew he was a little bit of an older player for a young player, for a third-year player. And he is super gifted. And everything I've heard has been good about him. And, oh, by the way, we reported a couple months ago he had ankle surgery.
Right.
So, but I'm told it's fine. He's doing fine. So I would say the expectations are he's going to play a lot. He's going to be one of their top 3 receivers this season.
Yeah, and, just quickly to go back, was it Doug Peterson kind of indicated that his practice habits were not great? Is that why he kind of fell out of playing?
I don't know exactly what. I think it's his whole approach. It was after Alshon Jeffrey came back. Remember when Jeffrey came back?
Yeah.
I'm sure we talked about it on the show with you. It was bizarre to me how his role dropped. Now, I know by contract that they had to play. I would have done it. I would not have done what the Eagles did. I thought that was a major mistake, whether it came from the front office, was Peterson's decision, whatever the case may be with Alshon Jeffrey. That was a mistake to play him over Fulgham. That was a terrible mistake. Now, one could argue that Fulgham didn't handle the situation well. That may play into his practice habits, maybe, and it is true for what we understand that his practice performance needed to be better than it was. And if you don't practice well and you're not a starter or a veteran, you don't all of a sudden get your playing time back, and that was maybe part of it. But I still think it was a mistake. Fulgham is so gifted.
Yeah,
I give the Eagles credit for the waiver claim from the Packers. That was a pretty good one. I don't know whose idea it was, but I'm assuming it's from their pro staff. That's a pretty good job of evaluation. But again, there's a reason why he's been cut 3 times.
It's just wild to think, Adam, right? That here's this guy who was statistically the best receiver in football over this 4-week span, and you just deemed we don't need you on our offense anymore. Like they couldn't find another role for him. They just basically got rid of him.
That's bad.
Right. That's the bizarre part of the whole thing, right?
Yeah, we never, Jeff and I tapped our sources on this one. I know the Eagles were aware of some of the issues that he had in Detroit. They did a good job of homework. But I'll tell you what, and you mentioned over those 4 weeks, that Pittsburgh game, which shocked me. Wentz actually played fairly well in that game. Not great, but it was one of his better games last season. Fulgham put on an absolute show. The Steelers are one of the best defenses in the NFL. They couldn't stop him. That showed me how gifted he is. And Aaron Moorhead, their receivers coach, who's back in the second year here, this is his project. Sure, developing Rager and Smith is also part of it. But if he could get Travis Fulgham to play, give him 75% of the production that they got over those 4 games.
Yeah.
The Eagles are something pretty big here with Travis Fulgham.
By the way, Travis Fulgham did lead the team with 539 yards last year and 14 yards per catch. So even though
how many yards? Okay, here's my follow-up to what you just said. How many of it came in those 4 games? How much of it?
Well, he had 152 against Pittsburgh, 75 against Baltimore, 73 against New York, and 78 against Dallas. So, and 57 against San Francisco. So, in that 5-game stretch, my gosh. And then after that, I don't think if you added them all up combined, that he got the Pittsburgh game.
Right. So you pretty much got it over 4 weeks.
Adam, though, this is crazy.
As a sample, you can't just do that well and not be talented, and that's the point.
Right. Well, he had 34 targets in a 3-week span. Over the final 7 weeks of the year, 8 weeks of the year, he didn't have that combined. So they just completely removed him from the offense. So that'll be something. I know you said about watching training camp. How are they going to use him? Is it going to be Smith, Rieger, Fulgham? Is JJ going to get a shot at all, or do they just give up on him? Is Greg Ward in the mix? We know these are going to be big-time things that you guys are going to be keeping an eye on when they go to camp in less than, 3 weeks here?
Yeah, well, they report the 27th, so, yeah, it's just under 4 weeks. But when it comes to this receiver group, the great thing about this group is, A, they're very young. Rager has positional versatility, slot outside. Smith, slot outside. Ward is only a slot. Fulgham, Greg Cosell told us this last year when he looked at their tape. He said that the Eagles' former staff did a good job of moving him. They actually moved him. He played some slot. He played clearly outside because he's big and he can run. So that's a good thing with this group. Then we didn't mention Hightower and Watkins. I suspect one of them will not make the team. I don't see them keeping more than 5 receivers. And you mentioned J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. He has to earn a spot on the roster. Nothing's going to be given to him. The Eagles kind of know what he's been. No, they're not moving to tight end. I know that fans keep asking me that. There's been no plans to do that. Look at how many former receivers or guys they've had at tight end moving from another position to tight end. Keem Butler, former receiver playing tight end. Tyree Jackson, former quarterback playing tight end. Yeah, I mean, you got 2 guys at a minimum right now. I don't see them doing 3.
Right, and they don't want to bring Jordan Matthews in to play tight end?
Yeah, how about that story? That was funny.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4. Don't forget, 2 Inside the Birds NFC East previews have already dropped. If you want to hear more about Dallas, more about Washington. I'm interested to see what Greg thought about those 2 teams. Because to me, Dallas is far and away the best team with Prescott back.
Yeah, I'll give you a Cliff Notes version. I'll give you 10 seconds of that, which is about 35 minutes, but it's on what you just asked or brought up. What he talked about is how the Eagles are going to struggle against their 3 receiver group. They'll be a heavy 11 personnel team with Amari Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. If we know the Eagles are going to add a cornerback at some point, whether it's in a week from now, whether it's 6 weeks from now, or by the start of the season, they're going to add at least 1 corner. They really need 2 more outside corners, but they'll add at least 1. They cannot line up today. If they had to play a game, and I know they don't, but if they did, they would get absolutely slaughtered by this Dallas offense, this pass game. And by the way, Tyron Smith and Lyle Collins are back at tackle. Their offense is going to be top 3 of the Cowboys. Look out, Eagles. Anytime they play the Cowboys, it'll probably be a high-scoring game because I just have a hard time believing the Eagles are going to get some veteran by the start of the season that's going to be a quality starter. We'll see. Whether it's Stephen Else or someone else, it's not going to be. There are not a lot of guys on the street that could do that.
Adam, the Eagles took the Wentz banner down today.
Yeah.
It's down. So, who is there a guy who's the face that goes up in his place?
This is what I would do. Okay, this is what I would do because they have 2 players who have had the longest tenure of this roster. Jason Kelsey, 2011. who's an absolute superstar. What a great job he did in Seattle City yesterday for Eagles Autism Drive. Great job by Jason. And Brandon Graham, one of the all-time great Eagles. Both are great guys, as you know. These guys, anything they do with posters or banners, these two guys need to be on it. One representing offense, one representing defense. The two longest tenured Eagles of this roster, I absolutely would do that. I don't even think about it. It's such a layup for me. Two of the all-time great guys, and the cool thing about Kelce is he's a 6th-round pick who will not only go in the Eagles Hall of Fame, and I'm not saying look, if he comes back next year, we reported a couple months ago they'd have to redo his contract, but if he comes back for another 2 or 3 years, and Graham plays 2 or 3 more years, not only both will go in the Eagles Hall of Fame, you got to start talking about Kelce, a potential Hall of Famer. That's how good of a football player he is.
Hey, so who's up there currently? Do you know who?
I don't know. I haven't even looked.
Okay,
Fans would know that. I would have no idea.
I was going to say, because you could put Brandon Graham's strip sack up there, like that play.
Yeah, that's a great picture.
Right?
Yes, that's it. And Merrill Reese's call on that. Yeah, I just there's some great history with this team, and obviously Miracle in the Meadowlands 1 and 2, and obviously the Super Bowl win. But Jason Kelce is a special football player, and so is Graham, two of the all-time great Eagles, and great guys, and they should be celebrated.
Adam Caplan, the new Inside the Birds podcast with a deep look at the Washington football team, the defending NFC East champions, with Greg Cosell and Jeff Mosher, is up right now wherever you listen to podcasts. And, of course, it's Football at 4 here on the Sports Best. All right, Adam, we're getting close. We're getting close to camp.
Looking forward to it, Mike. Thank you.
All right, there he goes. Adam Caplan here on Football at 4.